Alright, so even before you start building your database, it is important that you sit down with your team, or if you're planning it alone because you're doing a small database, it is very important that you go through and plan the design process. Think about why is it that you want to build a database? How much data will you be handling? So, step one, determine the purpose of your database. This helps you to prepare for all the remaining steps. Know what your database will be about. Step two, you want to find and organize the information required. So gather all types of information that you might want to record in your database, such as maybe you want to record product name, you want to do order number. If you're keeping track of students and the subjects they're taking, you might want to a list of students, their phone numbers, their email, their addresses. You might want a list of subjects, the name of the lecturer teaching that subject, the name of the subject itself, how many credit hours. If you're building a database, say for a car rental, you might want to know the license plate number for the car, the serial number. You might want to know the number of seats, number of passengers it can carry, right? So you sit down and you think about the purpose and also think about all the information that you will be using within your tables for your database. Third thing you want to do is to divide your information into tables. So like I mentioned before, when you're building a relational database, you want to have several different lists, right? So if you're dealing, let's say you're doing a database that deals with clients coming into a hotel, then your tables that you might want to use is a table for clients or for customers. You might want a table that is used for your rooms from the hotel, and you might want a table that will be used simply for sales or whenever you're carrying out some sort of transaction. So divide your information into tables, such as you might want to group your major entities or subjects. You might want to group products, and each particular subject then becomes a table. So like I mentioned, you're doing for a school system to keep track of student and grades. Student becomes a table, grades become a table, subjects and so forth, right? And so your database tables keep expanding. You want to turn information into columns. So decide what information you want to store in each table, and each item then becomes a field and is displayed as a column in the table. So students, let's look at this. Let's look at customers. Say you're running a hotel and you want to create a database to keep track of your customers. So customer name becomes a field, and you can break it into two: customer first name, customer last name. You can have age, you can have social security number, you can have nationality, and those all becomes then your field names. The other thing you want to do is to specify what your primary keys are. Now, this is a new word, and I know I asked you in previous lesson to go and see if you find new terms that might be used in databases. Now, primary key is a unique identifier to a table in a database. Let me say that again. Primary key is a unique identifier to a table in a database. For example, if you're keeping, let's say, a database table on customers, a primary key that can be used or something that is unique to a customer might be their social security number, might be their passport number, right? Or some sort of identification number that they might have, whether it's a driver's license number. Keeping in mind that that customer is the only person with that number, right? And that is what makes it unique. So a primary key, and we'll talk more about this as we go into tables, a primary key is a unique identifier. So you want to plan out what your primary key for each table will be also. Next step then is to set up your table relationships. And to set up your table relationship, that is where your primary key comes in, and then your primary key then becomes a foreign key in another table. So you want to show how tables are related to each other within your database. Then you want to refine your design. So analyze your design for errors. Create tables add in a few records or sample data, see if it all makes sense, see if it'll result into what you want from the tables, and make the adjustment to the design as needed, right? But it is important that you sit down and you go through the planning phase thoroughly, so later on you're just making small tweaks to your database. And then of course you go back, you look back, and make sure that your database design is in order. So again, just to go through the steps I mentioned, you want to determine the purpose of your database. You want to find and organize information required. You want to divide the information into tables. You want to turn the information into columns, which then becomes your field names. You want to specify what your primary keys will be, and you want to set up the table with relationship and then refine your design, right? Or reanalyze to make sure that if there's changes to be tweaked, this is when you do it. So those are the steps that we'll use to design our database.